Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the June 20th, 2023 Greenwich Board of Selectmen meeting, the anniversary of our graduating from high school. I remember that day, about 10 years ago. As normal, we will start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of June 8th, 2023?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you. And is there a motion to approve the minutes of the special meeting of June 8th, 2023?
Lauren Rabin, so moved.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo's a yes.
Lauren Rabin, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Okay, thank you. Going out right along to the updates, for Selectmen's updates. I just wanted to mention, since I brought up graduation, to salute the high school and the Board of Education for a really nice ceremony the other night, and to my friend John Ledecky, who couldn't have given a better speech, a greater life story, one of our own. So we're really happy to that they chose John Ledecky, and we're grateful for his inspiring message to all the graduates. Yesterday we did. Quickly, this morning I did present a special certificate. One of the things I like most about public service and about my job in particular is recognizing accomplishments. And a young woman named Shania Blake is the first person to go to school from her family, and she works at McDonald's. And McDonald's has something called the Archways program, and she's one of the first graduates of it. And they had a little celebration this morning, so I stopped down McDonald's and gave her a certificate, and she was almost speechless because people were just paying attention to her. She's not used to that, but it was really nice to see. And just there's a lot of good out there in the world, and a lot of these businesses are certainly responsible for that. So we always want to highlight when people do the right thing. Yesterday we had a nice celebration for Juneteenth. It was, as Reverend Nins mentioned, we were one of the first ones last year to do that ceremony. But as I was leaving, I just wanted to clarify. One person came up to me, and then two later, about making it an official holiday here in Greenwich. And I had to explain that there are 4 bargaining units that would have to agree to either give up one of the holidays we already celebrate, which, as you can imagine, no matter which one you pick, someone's going to have a problem with it. Excuse me. Or we could add one, which would be costly, and then we'd have to, I'm sure the finance board would have an issue with that. So having the ceremonies are great, and certainly we're going to encourage that as long as people let us know and get a permit. But as far as holidays, it's a little bit more difficult than just saying we're going to take it off officially. So I just want to let people know. I know there's going to be a petition coming our way. But when I explained that to people, they understood, but I still think there may be a petition coming. So I just want people to know, even if they do a petition, that's what we're up against there. Also, congratulations to my friend Omar and the Greenwich High students who, I believe, set the world record for that conga line. I went there for a few minutes on Saturday. I did not participate, but I think they were at it for like 6 hours, and I think they broke the record. So you have to verify it. So they're in the process of verifying it, and then they're going to come here to Town Hall, and we'll do a little ceremony for them. But they did it was to raise money, and they did it. It was a great thing. They picked some really nice charities, so good for them. And last week there was a bunch of things going on. I stopped by my buddy Kaz Gemma, who is a MMA fighter from Greenwich, and he's putting on a boxing exhibition on September 30th. On the water. We're going to have a big jumbotron, like you see at the fights in Las Vegas. He came to me over a year ago with this idea, and I used to tell him how we used to have boxing matches in the late 70s and the 80s here in Greenwich, but then it was just a ring in Pembroke Park in the middle of the tennis courts. This is a little bit different. This is pretty cool. So we're going to be promoting that. We did some videos for that. A lot was going on Saturday, but those are the main ones. Of course, the police, retired policemen and women had their annual cookout there on the water. Tonight, there is a ribbon cutting or an grand opening for Halstein Water over at 500 West Putnam Avenue. Greenwich Newcomers Club is meeting tonight over in Old Greenwich. Wednesday, the 21st, I'll be speaking to the King Merit Association at 6. Thursday, the 22nd, there's another ribbon cutting for Vega Music at 37 West Putnam Avenue, which is right in front of the Knights of Columbus. We're happy to welcome that business. Mike Manning, he had a little opening a couple weeks ago, but he sent a note saying he's going to have another official opening over at in Old Greenwich at 37. No, not 37. I forget. It's right behind the Chase Bank over in Old Greenwich. Old Greenwich Art. That's this week, this Friday. And Thursday the 29th, the Greenwich Sentinel Award will be honoring Frank Gaudio, who's the president of the bank over in Coscow, First Bank of Greenwich, a terrific local bank, homegrown. So we congratulate Frank, and I will turn it over to Lauren. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. To piggyback on whether Juneteenth should be a town holiday, I know working in major corporations at the same time as being a select woman when Martin Luther King became the company holiday, we lost President's Day. So it's probably something that, yeah, you're right. Either we lose a holiday or we add it and the cost associated with it. But I look forward to investigating it, and having it brought to our attention is a really good thing. Free Music Friday, our first evening event, is this Friday, the 23rd. Fingers crossed, no rain, 5 to 7 at Greenwich Commons. And I spent Saturday, as I committed to, meeting with the adjacent neighbors to the proposed dog park at Western Greenwich Civic Center. There was about 25 neighbors that attended from the adjacent streets: Hawthorne North, Bank Street, Gray Rock, Weaver, another street, and Greenway. And what really I learned, if you just separate the dog park for a moment, is that there are concerns that the neighbors have just with things in general. The street, Hawthorne North, is very narrow. So if people are parked on it, again, don't even think about dog park. And it was almost like it was on purpose. Folks parked there, and if people are parked there, you can't have two cars like sort of simultaneously passing. Also, there's no sidewalk on that street, so the children there's no busing for the kids that go to Glenville School. That's a whole nother issue. I think everyone knows how much I want to change the school busing and get more kids on buses. So there's no sidewalk there. There's no crosswalk from Hawthorne North to go across the street to Weaver's sidewalk to have them go to the steps to go up to Glenville School. Also, a lot of the kids will take the stairs to go down. The stairs are not in the best shape. They're not handicap accessible. There's no handrails on them. I learned that during snow days, some of the residents actually shovel those stairs so that they could get their kids down to go to the daycare. So even if school was closed, the daycare might be open. And there's just a lot of things that I think as a town, and bring in parking services, DPW, Parks and Rec to address before we could even, I think, consider doing anything different to that area. There's also some longstanding projects. I think, Fred, you're going to talk about it. We did get the CMAQ grant to improve the Glenville Road corridor from Glenville Street to Pembowick to Weaver. So that is something that we haven't moved forward. So there's a lot, I think, to pull together. And I have made a commitment to the adjacent neighbors to keep them informed and to make sure that their voices are heard.
Thank you very much. Lauren and Janet, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Fred. I agree. Yesterday's Juneteenth celebration was absolutely lovely. Thank you for your support. Whether or not Town Hall closes in observance for the holiday, I do think that we should continue similar celebrations. And the First Selectmen's Diversity Advisory Committee has very graciously offered to help with that, and I look forward to those future celebrations. So thank you. All right, with that, I'm going to begin my update with some serious items. This morning, as I do every Tuesday at 7 a.m., I attended the Old Greenwich School Building Committee meeting. I believe it was our 52nd meeting. The building committee is prepared to meet the June 30th deadline, that's next week, to apply for state reimbursement. If it does not meet this deadline, the project will be delayed a year, and with that delay comes an almost $3 million cost increase. If that escalation could be avoided, the savings would easily cover fiscally responsible options, such as replacing all the windows in the school rather than just some, which would allow for significant future utility savings. For this June 30th deadline to be met, the BOE, BET, and RTM need to schedule special meetings to vote on the matter. My understanding is that the BOE is looking for a date, and the RTM is on standby to schedule a meeting, but the BET is not willing to schedule a special meeting. I urge the BET to support the Old Greenwich School project and at least hear the committee's request. And I ask my colleagues on this board to join me in this effort, so thank you. Tomorrow, Wednesday, at 10:30, in the Second Congregational Church Chapel, the Greenwich Sustainability Committee and Coffee for Good will host Climate Change 101 with Dallas Hetherington, and I'm really looking forward to this presentation. All right, and now for the fun updates. It's feeling like summer, and tomorrow is the summer solstice, so happy summer, everybody. Sunday's Experience the Sound, that happens from 1 to 4, is going to be as fantastic as always. And the fireworks on July 1st are also going to be great, as will the 4th of July celebration here at Town Hall. And one of my favorite events at Greenwich Point is Sandblast, this year on Saturday, July 8th from 11 to 2. Brought to you by Parks and Rec and the Greenwich Arts Council. And that's it from me.
Thank you, Janet. Lots of good things going on, and it's the longest day of the year tomorrow. And it go down, all downhill after that, unfortunately. No, just kidding. We love summer, though. Okay, so going on to old business, we are pulling the dog park one, but I do want to touch on what Lauren said and agree with her. 3 years ago, we had approved the CMAC, and we applied for this grant. And because of some of the advocates, tree preservation advocates, we pulled it for a year. Oh, okay. Okay. No problem. Take your time. Three interviews. Did I?
It was 2.5 years ago, maybe?
No. How many interviews?
Oh, just 3.
Just 3. Okay, just 3.
But then there's some legal things, and I messed up. I can't attend the executive session past 1 p.m.
What time are the?
And that's when the legal update.
When they're up there, we can.
I think you guys.
Okay, so 3 years ago, we approved and got a grant for public safety and enhancement there in Glenville. It was delayed a year because some residents had issues about trees. It was worked out, and then when we got ready to go, the pandemic had already hit and the prices went through the roof. So I reached out for an update again with Jim Michael, see if anything had changed from a few weeks ago. And they're still working with DOT and obtaining additional funding through state and federal grants. And they plan to go back out to bid in the late summer or early fall. And in the event the bids come back where additional money is needed, DPW will ask for it through the budget process. So that that did come up too with some of the people that were calling me about this, and there was a lot of confusion, and some people said to me, have no problem with a dog park. Some actually liked it. They said, but what about what you approved a few years ago? And so I realized we merely need to do an update, and I think what we did last year in Glenville, going there and doing a forum about flooding, I think this is also called for, because it's not only this, it's also the Glenville Stop and Shop that's officially closed now. I reached out again to the owner this morning. I haven't heard back yet. So that's another thing that's going to have to be updated on. Our plan to do a little Glenville Village Green there, and seeking a public-private partnership for the building that the American Legion and Boys State and others use, that really needs a lot of work. Talking to some people, so eventually we hopefully can get that done. So there's a lot going on there. As well as the dog park. So we want to make sure that all the questions are answered. And some people one person that reached out to me 2 weeks ago about Hawthorne Street, they said, what about getting a little sidewalk, like you mentioned? And I remember about 3 years ago, we approved the sidewalk on Indian Harbor Drive in Bruce Park, right next to the playground. And that's worked out pretty well. So I asked Jim Michael if he'd take a look at it, and he said he would. So this is actually pretty good that it's bringing up some things that have been, I guess, questions and concerns for a while there. So, and as I realized, we hadn't updated really everybody on what was happening with the grant. So I think it's a good time to set something up later in the summer to update everybody on that. So with that, we'll go over to the second item on old business, which is the final one on old business, under old business, which is the request for MI status for Central Middle School. And we have the chairman of the CMS Building Committee, Tony Turner, with us. And I see Claire Kilgallen over there too. And Joe.
Mr. First Selectman, good morning, members of the board. The screen now, is that better? Okay.
Morning, Tony.
Good morning, Mr. First Selectman, members of the board. I stand before you, obviously, with the request of your consideration for municipal improvement status for the Central Middle School project. I have some just very brief comments, and then I'm certainly willing to entertain any questions that you all might have. There's several things that have happened since I stood before you about 12 days ago, and I want to be sure to update you on that. We did receive yesterday the results of the peer review analysis from Lehrer Cumming. As you might recall, we did ask for a third-party independent peer review analysis of the cost projections of the project. We received the report yesterday. We reviewed that in depth this morning with Andy Fox and his team leading that discussion. That report included a possible additional savings of $1.6 million. So we continue to go down the path very thoroughly and thoughtfully to look for additional cost savings without affecting the educational program. So I want to be sure that you know the results of that, and again that we continue with that effort. Next is the timeline for the interim funding request. It looks as though that we will be going for interim funding. And as I stated last time, we are in the process right now of schematic design with the schematic design documents with the architect. Those will be completed at the end of this month in June. And then Turner Construction, no relation, and SLAM Collaborative, the architect, will be working independently on a new revised project cost estimate based on schematic design, and we will have that number at the end of July. And we also confirmed this morning with our professionals that with the revised estimates, they will also give us a list of value engineering options with cost options. So when we in the building committee receive that document, we can then work very quickly to come up with a proposed final number. We have been working schedule-wise in collaboration and in partnership with the moderator of the RTM and the BET chair to talk through the schedule for the interim funding request. And it appears as though that if the building committee and the Board of Education take the early part of August to finalize our number and, of course, finalize the interim request document, which it will be very detailed, no dollar left unturned and unjustified. We will be presenting to the BET Budget Committee, the BET, and the RTM on their regular schedule cycle in the month of September. That's not finalized. It's more than 50-50, but I just want to be sure to give you all heads up that that's the latest thinking on the timeline for the interim request. Again, it looks like it's going to be in the regularly scheduled meetings in the month of September. And then lastly, Select Person McQuiggan asked last time I was here, what should you be thinking about and doing and so forth? Well, in essence, she gave me homework, and she didn't know that. But I'm very happy to report that collectively, we have identified now, the committee has identified 7 different possible sources of either rebates, grants, or reimbursement for the project. And we're working now with our professionals to think through appointing a working group of a combination of volunteers with our committee, with EMAC, with at least one person in the leadership position from the Sustainability Committee to look very closely at those 7 sources of funds and to identify any reimbursement grants and rebates that we may be eligible for with the view of including those credits, if you will, in the budget request. So if we have an ultimate number from the professionals, we can deduct hopefully a substantial and a material amount of money in reimbursements and grants and rebates from that. We just need to verify and quantify what they are. And again, we're about to start work on that. Okay, I'll stop there and see if there are any questions from you all.
Thank you, Tony, for that update, and thanks for the good news for trying to pare down the costs a little bit.
Yeah.
We anxiously await to see what the final number will be, like everybody else. But at the end of the day, our whole goal is to provide a building there that the town will be very proud of, that will serve generations to come, and that we could say that we got it done the right way. So I want to thank you, Joe and Claire and the rest of the building committee for all your hard work. And it hasn't been easy, I know, but you guys are doing terrific, and
thank you.
We can't thank you enough.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Thank you for the thorough update. You saved me from having to do it during my section, which I usually try to update my colleagues on what's going on with our building committee. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I echo my colleagues, thank you for all the work that has gone into this.
You're welcome. Takes a team, as you know.
It sure does. Well, thank you. Okay, so is there a motion to the consideration of the MI that will go to?
Yeah, so we're going to approve the consideration of the municipal improvement status for Central Middle School. Lauren Raven makes that motion so that we could refer it to planning and zoning.
Janet Stone McWigan, I second.
All those in favor, Fred Camillo is a yes.
Lauren Raven, yes.
Janet Stone McWigan, yes.
Thank you. And I know
Thank you very much.
the big questions are going to be coming soon at the P&Z, but we wanted to get it over to them so the project can go forward. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all. Yep.
Thank you. Okay. Next up, we have, of course, I just mixed up there. Under new business, and it's the request for relocation of the East Elm loading zone. And we have Deputy Chief Craig Gray, who's also our Parking Services Director. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me, Mr. Selectman and the board. Let me just get my stuff kind of organized here.
Take your time. Thanks for joining us.
As you know by the agenda, I have several items. And I guess we're starting with loading zone, if I have it correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So the loading zone, I would just like to preface this with that this loading zone, actually, I'll go back to what Mr. Turner said, where it takes a team. So some of the, actually, all of the proposals that are coming forward today was kind of done with a team perspective. All the members of the parking services, the parking enforcement officers, we spoke to the some of the merchants as well as the delivery persons that utilize Central Greenwich. I had a thought on moving a loading zone because it is an issue, right? This is in an effort to address some of the downtown congestion and parking concerns. And, through that communication with all the stakeholders, I learned something how important it was. And so I'll call it the 50-yard line there at Elm Street is a key spot for deliveries on the avenue. And so in particularly this loading zone change, if you look before you, basically what we're asking is that we're going to redefine that parking zone there. There's currently, in your packet, you'll see there's actually some photos in the back. There's a loading zone that's, yep, that one actually, thank you very much. That loading zone is ineffective for actual deliveries, and it's become kind of actually a hazard. When the larger delivery trucks park there, it creates a line of sight issue. And so one of the things that we're asking is that we're going to eliminate that, return that to metered parking over there. It'll be a 2-hour metered parking. If you go to the next slide there, you can see the truck that does not fit within that spot there, right? But, that's the location that we gave them as an option. Some of this is the result of the bump outs that took place and the shifting of some of these loading zones. If you go to the next slide, thank you, Ken, or Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. There is currently a loading zone located here. This is East Elm as you are facing west on East Elm, looking at Greenwich Avenue. We're all very familiar with it. What we're going to do is those two spots that are there are actually going to be eliminated. And it's going to be changed to commercial parking. You can't see it very well in the photo, but behind it is where the commercial loading zone is. Again, it's somewhat inadequate. People getting in and out of those two spots find it very difficult. And in actuality, the way in which it's lined is not in compliance with the town ordinance. The back of the loading zone infringes on the driveway cutouts for the apron and needs to be pushed forward another 5 feet. And so, again, that does create a line of sight issue for those persons coming in and out of the parking lot over there. And so we're going to take 2 out in the front, make the loading zone actually comply with the town ordinance, and then return a spot to the to parking down there at that singular spot in between. And that's the gist of that proposal. Do you have any questions?
Thanks, Chief. Yeah, is there any possible way to get 2 in there? I'm just asking. I know you have
Two in where?
where you're taking the loading zone out next to where Doppio is, and
2 parking spaces?
yeah, could you
No,
you can't get 2 in there?
No, it
I
will
see
not
the
comply.
margins there, they're not big enough.
it's not big enough.
Okay.
It would create a line of sight issue and infringe on, it would violate the town ordinance.
Okay.
It's only 1 vehicle can park there.
Okay.
And again, that taking away those 2 spots up front there, making it pure commercial, we're going to end up with the ability for 2 commercial park vehicles to actually park there now, which at the 50-yard line, my understanding is really important, going both north and south, as well as, if you have a truck in there along with a van fitting inside there, is important to the deliveries.
And to the deliveries, I know they try to do it, before and after,
Absolutely.
Off hours. How often, I mean, you see them once in a while. I don't see them that often, but I'm not saying that they don't do it during the day. I see it once in a while. But is it going to be a situation where they're going to be empty, this area, most of the time during business hours?
When you say empty,
Yeah, in other words, because when they do deliveries, I know all, having been in that business 100 years
Sure.
ago, you try to get, in the business districts, you try to get there early before traffic arrives, or after.
right?
Is this going to be a case where people are going to go by there, maybe see them empty a lot during the day?
Right? Possibly.
Yeah.
But, so I would just give you, again, anecdotally, just the other day, I make my rounds, check the space. I had an Amazon driver in a large van, double parked on Greenwich Avenue, and I moved him along. And sure enough, moved him along, and he's now looking at a loading zone with a car parked in it, right? And so then I had to get them out of the parking space so I could get the van over there. And so, it's kind of a shell game, right? And I had a conversation with the ladies, no malintent, just they was going to discharge a passenger, and then they started talking before they discharged the passenger. And so it took a little extra time, but that Amazon driver is, time is money. He can't stop. And so now what is he going to do? And so what he does is he goes a couple more feet and he double parks, and he takes his chances. And so I think the large vans, the large trucks, certainly they're going to make those major deliveries following the ordinance, right? No large trucks over 18 feet between the hours of 10 and 5. 10 and 5, I think it is, no large trucks. But there's a lot more deliveries being done today, 2023, by van, right? And so, the UPS is all day.
All day.
They're not,
I
and he's
see it
looking
on-
for spots. You see them.
I see it on Lewis Street all the time. My buddy's driving there, and
Also-
it's on Lewis Street all the time. It's
Sure.
all throughout the day because people are now ordering, nonstop. So, thank you, Chief.
I like the new spot what was a loading zone. I think that's going to be beneficial. There's a dermatologist across the street from there
Yes.
that sometimes it's hard to get a park.
It's just a smarter use of the space. That I think more people, the pedestrian, I should say, the private citizen using a personal car inside that space is probably smarter.
Agreed.
I'm just going to say thank you for all the thought that's gone into this, and I look forward to hearing any public comment, if there is any, in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Chief. And then going on to the second one, which is the request for a conversion of a handicapped parking spot on Strickland Road to be handicapped van accessible.
Yeah. Can you put that up, Jenny? Thank you. As you're working on it, I would just, preface this with that, obviously, Alan Gunsberg, I've had many conversations with him. We're constantly thinking about access and handicap parking, how we can make it better. There's a lot of difficulties with ADA compliant parking spaces, but if there's an opportunity for it, on the existing roadway that we have to kind of do what we can. So I happen to notice that. So in particular, if you're not familiar, I will just say this, that parallel parking, handicap accessible, compliant parking is hard to achieve, very hard to achieve. Inside a parking lot, new build, it's a little easier. This just so happens over here in Coscob, I noticed, I thought was kind of a home run. So if you look at that's Strickland Road at US 1, right there, across from that little park, right? And so it's nose-in parking. And anyway, if you look closely, that's a handicap spot that was put in, but not put into the ordinance. And so what we're really doing is kind of cleaning up the ordinance. This is a space that currently exists. We've been managing it as a space, and now we're going to put it into the ordinance. But when we did it, we had, and you'll see in the drawings, working with engineering, we're going to make it ADA compliant. And they're going to do a curb cutout so that those with a wheelchair, van accessible, and with a wheelchair should be able to get to the sidewalk there, access the park if they want to, that little pocket park right there. I don't remember what name it is. And be part of the sidewalk, and then they can get to the crosswalk, and then they can get to several locations in Coscob. Although probably not the best, it was a great opportunity to just make it right.
Thank you.
I'm
Yeah, I
cracking
had one
up at the campaign signs
Yeah,
from
that's-
2019.
Yeah, it was
I actually just noticed that and tried to ignore it.
2019. Yeah, so that Mill Pond Park, Pocket Park there.
Thank you.
So you're going to take a little bit of the grass there.
Honestly, I don't think it's going to be much. If you look at the drawings from Michael, who's been a great asset, by the way, to the parking services, I would just say that. Again, as Mr. Turner talked about team effort, we're working very well with DPW and traffic engineering on a lot of these issues. The drawing's pretty simple. We're talking about, a couple of feet of grass. That's it.
Yeah. It's, I think, very much needed, and thank you for working on that. And okay, and going up on to the last one, which is a request to update the list of 15-minute metered parking spaces to add 30-minute metered parking spaces in Central Greenwich. And I know we did about 4 of these in the last few years for the 15 minutes. So all of these will be converted to 30 or just a few?
So I would just, I put together a little just justification document for you. I put it there, right? I'll make it available. I would just say this is basically what we're proposing, right? So I'm proposed implementing what I call an express short-term parking program on Greenwich Avenue. And why I'm using the term express is that, we had, again, team meeting, parking services. This is in collaboration with my parking enforcement officers, right? Obviously, Greenwich Avenue proper is the hub of the congestion. And no better people than those that are out there every day doing the enforcement to say, what can we do to create better flow in the avenue? And, one of the things that specifically came up was that we can't create parking spaces, but we can affect the utilization, right? And so that's what we can easily change. I can't create parking spaces, right? But one of the parking enforcement officers used the term express, and I said, great, we'll use express as we discuss this. And so we worked together, the team, Luann and Rod, and the parking enforcement officers. I have communicated with the Chamber of Commerce. I've spoken to people on the streets. I've spoken with the delivery guys. I've spoken to the Amazon guys, the average guy. I've spoken with the bike officers, the merchants, everyone, right? Everybody wants something done. Right, and so this is basically the something, and as you know. So basically what we're talking about is short-term parking on Greenwich Avenue. The program aims to address the growing needs for convenient and efficient parking options for visitors who require a brief stay up to 30 minutes. By offering designated parking spaces specifically tailored to this time limit, we can optimize parking utilization, enhance customer experience, and support the area's economic vitality. I emphasize up to because currently the rule is 2-hour parking on the avenue with a few exceptions. The few exceptions are those 50-minute parking spaces as well as handicap. We're going to increase that short term from 15 minutes to 30. And what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate the current location of those 15-minute parking spaces. Those 15-minute parking spaces were probably not put out. Well, first of all, the environment that is Greenwich Avenue is unique onto itself. You can buy, which I say all the time, you can buy a soup, a salad, and a Steinway all within a couple of blocks of one another. I don't know any other place you could do that. All right, and so the parking needs of the individual person also, within feet of each other is completely different. If I'm going to be trying out a Steinway, it's a different length of time than buying a salad. I also like to emphasize that, these 15-minute parking spaces, each merchant and each customer, depending on what they're looking to achieve on Greenwich Avenue, will change from day to day. I'll use a restaurant as an example. During maybe lunch, some days you just want to pick up your lunch and go. Some days you may just want to send a guy to go pick up your lunch and go. Other days you want to sit down with your peers and have lunch for 2 hours, right? The same customer, same location, different parking need, it depends on what day it is, right? And so a merchant can argue against himself for a particular type of parking based upon a whole bunch of factors that will change tomorrow. And again, it is Central Greenwich, right, on a hill. Parking needs, parking desires will change on weather, how you're feeling that day. And so, there's a whole host of factors that go into, what I need for parking on this day. Anyway, so the 15-minute, the proposal is we're going to eliminate the 15-minute parking spaces that have been placed, I'll say, with some thought, but probably not enough. And what we have done is we're going to place 30-minute parking, and if you look at the slide up there, right, we're going to place 30-minute parking at each one of the intersections of Greenwich Avenue. All right. In the end, the goal is to create a sense of flow and a rhythm of knowing where these parking spaces are going to be. So if you look here, all the 15 minutes parking spaces are going away, as you know. We're now going to do the, hold on, let me make sure I'm on same slides. And we could probably just go through them, right? And it's pretty straightforward once you see the rhythm, is that at each intersection, north and south of, as you come south on Greenwich Avenue, the first two we would place at the first spots as you come south on Greenwich Avenue, right? On either side, east and west. Come down to the intersection of Am and Jerome, we would place a short-term 30-minute parking space north and south of Am and Jerome. Going on further down at the intersection of Lewis Street, we would place a 30-minute express parking stall on the north side of the intersection, east and west, and on the south side of the intersection, east and west, and so on down the avenue. I think based upon a lot of discussions that I've had, that this would or should create a sense of flow, knowing that the short-term spots hopefully will be available just down the avenue, and encourage not parking and waiting, but checking to see if that space is going to come available. And if nothing else, a circling back to see. Now, this does not create more spaces. All it does is change the utilization rate. If everyone maxed out the time for their parking, 2 hours, because that's the rule. The rule is 2 hours. We're going to adjust that. You're going to get 3 more people per spot if everyone maximizes the time. And again, you don't have to take the 30, but you do have the 30 minutes available to you. And it will be done in 50-minute increments, but the maximum is going to be 30 minutes. And that's the gist of the proposal. A couple of things that I would highlight is obviously this is going to require, for the implementation, we'll do some public awareness. We'll put it out there. One of the factors that we thought to make sure that it's perfectly obvious is that we worked with the meter provider, and short-term parking meters are sometimes colored differently. And so we're going to use a very muted red to show that this is a specialty parking space. Obviously, signage will go up. We'll work with the media to notify people of what the changes are. The signage is, relatively simple, but we would designate these spaces. Again, enforcement would change slightly, but we will be focused on enforcing that, those 30 minutes and a high turnover so that we can create that sense of flow that so many people are looking for. Now, again, it doesn't solve all the problems of parking inventory that is available or not available. Luann was just talking today, our Central Greenwich permit is actually too shy of the maximum, right? The Board of Selectmen authorized 200 permits. We have 198.
Yay.
Right, so we're getting close to what the Board of Selectmen has authorized in the past, which is good because I would assume several of them, right, were probably meter feeders and now are going to be parking in the long-term parking. Some of them may have been long-term parkers anyway, but they have received the benefit of paying in advance. So I think I'd just like to close with this, right? Implementing a 30-minute time limit for short-term parking on Greenwich Avenue offers numerous advantages over a 15-minute time limit. It accommodates everyday tasks, reduces parking violations, and allows for unexpected delays or circumstances. The extended time limit enhances accessibility for individuals with special needs and supports local businesses by providing customers with adequate time to engage in rapid transactions. Additionally, a 30-minute time limit strikes a balance between the turnover and convenience, fostering a positive user experience. Ultimately, adopting a 30-minute time limit for short-term parking on Greenwich Avenue is a practical and user-friendly solution that benefits both visitors and residents while promoting the vitality of the area. If you have any questions?
I
Okay, you go first, and then
sorry.
I'll.
So I don't know if I missed this, but I was trying to add up how many 15-minute the 15-minute metered spaces are going to be changed and how many new?
So that's really,
30?
that's,
So if I did the math, and I don't want to be misquoted, 9 of the 15, the current 15 meters are 9. You're going to convert them to 30, and you're adding 7 more 30. So you're converting 2 hours, 2 hours to 7:30. But maybe you might want to put that for our next read.
okay, I can add that for you. But I would just say that also that there's also some discrepancies here. Several of these spaces in the ordinance are actually not marked that way or managed that way. There's
it.
several at the intersection of Greenwich Avenue, south of Havermeyer, that have not been marked or utilized in years. And so there was a discrepancy there.
Got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Sorry, Fred.
No, not at all. Thank you, Chief. Yeah, I'm happy to hear about the 198. And I want to thank you and everybody in the Park Services Department. I think that was almost like 3.5 years ago when we were talking about this parking situation, and we knew the meter feeders had been there forever. And while it's probably maybe not all of them were meter feeders, a significant amount were. And so that does free up spaces. So what we try to tell people all the time, who get frustrated by the lack of parking, which has been an issue for decades and decades and decades and decades, that we are making some progress there, which is great. And we have also talked about maybe eventually opening up some spaces here to add to that at Town Hall in the future. I think we'd all be open to having that discussion. And one last note. So basically, I know some of the merchants were really happy when we gave them the 15-minute spaces in front of their stores. And if they're taken away, we could see they're not, the new 30-minute ones are not that far off. So it's not like, they're not going to be right in front, but they're not going to be 3 blocks down either.
Yes, sir. I agree. But again, a salad, a suit, or a Steinway, right? I mean, literally, the 4 spaces to the right or left, is not in front of their store anymore.
Yeah. No,
And
I'm just.
it's the public's, right? And this is, and again, this is my belief. Makes it really equitable for everybody to have a parking opportunity, right? And so if you don't get a spot at the top, maybe you have a spot. You can still get another, a 2-hour spot if it becomes available and use it for 15 minutes. Nobody says you have to use it. But that turnover that we're looking for, I think, is the best achieved by providing these spaces in particular geographic infrastructure locations.
I agree, and so we may get a couple calls from some people. We did a few years ago.
It's a change.
Yeah, it's a change. So just so we're prepared to let them know that it's the spaces, like you said, are not far off, and there are going to be other 2-hour ones if you want to pay for 2 hours, even if you're only there for 15 or 30 minutes. So.
We've, as Selectwoman Rabin mentioned, we've actually increased the number of these short-term parking options.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require you to park for 30 minutes, just allows you to, and, up to.
Yeah, I think it's a good solution.
Yeah. And I would just say that I would close on, we did that pilot program over there in Amadrone Crossway that we ultimately adopted, right? Which kind of verified that there was a need for more parking, and it was 15 minutes wasn't quite enough. And, we believe the 30 minutes is probably the sweet spot.
I think it's I think all in all, it's a positive, and we're making some progress there. So I just wanted us to be prepared that we may get maybe a couple calls, maybe we won't. But I appreciate all the time and effort that went into all 3 of these proposals, and we'll see what the feedback is in the coming weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
But thank you, Luann.
See you in a couple weeks.
Thanks so much. Okay, going on to the public comment period. I see a hand in the back. Okay, Mr. Peter Alexander.
Can we hook it up? It's okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, Peter Alexander. Hello, Selects. I wanted to comment on a couple of things to thank you for Emancipation Day or June 19th. I was named after the saint that stopped slavery in South America. And then when I got to go to confirmation at St. Mary's, I chose St. Francis of Assisi. So I take this stuff seriously.
My favorite saint.
The dog park situation, I think we should have dog parks everywhere. Why don't we have one in every single school? Maybe. That's the most controversial. But what about park? Why not? And I think I don't know how far it's gone now, but the traffic alleged calming for the Glenville Circle there, that could cause faster cars. And I really think we need to look at the towns as a plan, not just as a segment here and a segment there. The, I guess, necessity that I think we should learn more about from the last couple of weeks, most people aren't talking about the fact that an area the size of Portugal burned in the Russian tundra last winter. And I just want to go on the record. Following the widespread forest fires and field fires in eastern Canada, by the way, stack up on blueberries. They produce some crazy number of blueberries in the world. I wanted to quickly relate how we're planning and not planning. And I wanted to say that I recently went to my sort of second hometown where I went to boarding school, 200 kids in a town of 2,100 people, but we've had the Olympics twice. And we had the Junior Olympics last year. We're going to have the World Cup next year. And I really think we need to come together as a town. I think we are leaving too much to Hartford. I think we're leaving the ability to get grants and so forth. We're kind of losing what's with the town. Where are the sections of the town that are most important? Why is Greenwich Avenue two-way? I don't know who can answer that, but the parking would be a lot easier and safer, as it was for a couple hundred years.
Well, that changed in 1969.
Right,
Go ahead. And as far as the grants, we are applying for lots of grants, and we are getting lots of grants, but if you have any ones in particular, just let me know, and we'll reach out to Tyler Fairburn. He's really good about getting right on top of things, no matter what part of town, and no matter what the issue is. If there's a grant out there, whether it's federal or state, let us know, because Tyler works around the clock on that stuff, so.
Well, the more grants we take, the more taxes we have to pay. I mean, Greenwich is participating a lot more in the running of Hartford than anyone else, money-wise.
Yeah, but the money's there anyway, so if we don't apply for the grants, it's going to go somewhere else. So it's a way of getting back some of the tax dollars that we send up there, and if you're right, we send up the most, and Fairfield County sends up the most. We send up about 15% of the whole state out of 169 towns, but that money's there. So it's not like if we don't apply for it, taxes aren't going to go lower. They're just going to go to another municipality, and we just saw that last year when one of the grants was rejected, and another town picked up the 2.8 million that would have come back to here. So we do apply for everything, and I think applying for grants is a good thing because the money is already there. It's going to go somewhere.
Could that 2.8 million been used for my fellow peasants in Pemberwick to stop the flooding?
No, because that was specific to a public safety. It had to fit within
That's
the
the point.
parameters. But the ones, I mean, the COVID money is going towards some Pemberwick projects, as you know, but the ARP money, but the money we got from this federal government, all right, that's coming down for the bridge openings. But we are always looking for possible grants, again, whether it's state or federal. So if you see something that we've missed, just let us know, because it's.
I will.
Also different agencies, so the bump outs were like pedestrian safety, and that was lot SIP, and I can't off the top of my head tell you what LOPSIP, I have to go back in my notes, but then flooding is like a different agency, so there are grants for flood mitigation, it's just a different agency, so it's not like, that's why you
Oh, I
couldn't
know.
just substitute the money.
I was also up on the St. Lawrence River, not too far from here, Cornell, where I've worked on flood control and oil spills there. I wanted to inform you that my analysis of what's been going on started in 1989 and basically been laughed at, rejected. And I finally figured out why. At a table of 8, I was the only one that didn't make the Olympics. Two of us, the other, in my school up in New York, and I said, don't you feel ineffective sometimes? I said, yeah, because I believe in global warming and global cooling, so I've just brushed off on both sides. But I have to say, on behalf of the town, I can't speak, but I did speak to Congressman Himes and told him, if the plans that are effectuated in the last design I saw will make flooding worse in Byram and East Portchester. And it's irrefutable. And part of that was the alleged experts who responded to Sandy were off by 4 feet. And that makes a really big difference. They're planning to protect federal highways first. Now, Route 1 isn't, it's in New York, but every human being and every creature lives in a watershed in the entire world. We're planning the Robert Moses technique, roads first, upstream last. I do the opposite, and I've asked for numerous times, I think 7 times, for updates from the DPW, but I haven't heard a word back. I'd like to.
Have you've emailed them directly?
Yeah, well, over years. For some reason, once I resisted, I was